Hey there, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ian, known as WanderBeard around these parts, and in today's video, we'll be recapping the first half of my top 10 moments in Guatemala in 2025. So in 2025, I was in Guatemala for a total of almost 8 weeks to the day. And during that time, I made a total of 15 stops throughout the country. Cheating a little bit maybe because I actually had 5 stops around Lake Atitlan as part of that 15. But regardless, the entire time I had a wonderful experience in Guatemala. So Guatemala is a destination for everyone that has a little bit of something for any kind of traveler that you might want to be. There is the tropical climate in the Rio Dulce region and up in near Lake Petén. There is the Western Highlands, which offers some remote and very rustic adventures. There's also, of course, the world famous Lake Atitlan and Antigua in Guatemala, and more beyond just those. So as a reminder, in 2025, I visited 7 countries in total. We've previously already covered Mexico and Belize. Today we're doing the first half for Guatemala, and then we also experienced the wonders in El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica on top of that. The purpose of these recaps, I thought it'd be fun for a couple of different reasons. One is obviously to bring in new viewers to some of these older videos and some of those wonderful experiences that I had. My viewership and my membership numbers have obviously grown quite substantially this year. I began about 12 months ago with around 1,900 subscribers and currently sit at almost 33,000. So that's a big jump in 1 year, and I thought that these videos would be a fun way to look back at those. And also for me personally, this is a great way for me to go back and look at all the amazing experiences that I had. So without further ado, let's get started and begin our countdown of the top 10 moments in Guatemala in 2025. In the honorable mention position, I actually have the ruins of Tayasal near Lake Petén. Tayasal was the last stand of the Maya during the Spanish invasion of Central America back in the 1500s. It was a very special place because of its history and because of its closeness to some other far more famous ruins in the area. However, it was very unique in its own special ways. Much of Tayasal had not really been excavated yet, so there wasn't a whole lot to see above the ground, but using a little bit of imagination and a little bit of digging around and poking around, I was able to have an absolutely amazing time at Tayasal. And I had the place almost entirely to myself. Let's have a look at the honorable mention, Tayasal. There's not a tourist. There's not an employee or a staff member or anyone working on the archaeological digs right now. There's nobody. I have this entire place to myself. The significance of this place is that it was the very last Mayan city to fall to the Spanish. And that did not occur until 1697. Now that's 170 years after the arrival of the Spanish in Mexico and in the greater Mayan Empire. So for it to have lasted that long beyond the arrival is pretty amazing. And this is Stela number 1, which presents a human head figure in the middle, which you can see has the eyes there and the top of the head. So we're going to continue to walk around, but I want to come over to this mound here first, because like with most of these sites, until they are uncovered, the temples and pyramids just look like hills, obviously covered over time with, leaves and dirt and things like that. But when you get up close, and as they have dug it out, you can see this is clearly man-made with all of the stones. There's actually some steps around the base. But again, there you can see clearly the outline of steps that would have led up this temple on the front. More cut stones along the bottom there. Painstaking work. I almost prefer places like this that are not fully uncovered, that leave, a lot of mystery to them. And the fact that I have it to myself is also kind of amazing. So over here is work on another structure, pyramid maybe, certainly a temple of some sort. This is a good example here of how difficult this work must be, where you're trying to dig out this rock and you've got all these tree roots coming through it, which would not only make it difficult to work around, but would obviously be loosening the material over time as the roots grow through it. And then you get all this sort of loose material above it to give you an idea just how deep this material goes. Like that is probably from where the green to here is 4 feet, roughly. You can definitely see some of the walls that have been uncovered. And then the big flat base upon which this place was built even is still here. So they're clearly doing some restoration work. There's definitely a building of significance. Here's a little piece of it sticking out right here. And I would say this is probably the same over here. Again, you can definitely see some structure back there that's being worked on and excavated. So when you go to, the more famous sites of, say, Chichen Itza or Tikal here in Guatemala, this is kind of how they all initially start. Lots of dirt, lots of trees to be cleared, and lots of slow work to uncover what was here without damaging it too much in the process, along with trying to, restore it, fix it up, and maintain it. And again, like, people go to Tikal because it's the most famous and the most impressive, but there are so many sites within the original Mayan Empire area to see that places like this are worth checking out too, in my opinion, because it just gives you a sense of some of the true history that was here and some of the mystery that's yet to be discovered. So in the number 10 position, we have the Xela Central Park. So Xela, or what's its formal name is Quetzaltenango, is a very kind of unique area, I think, in Guatemala. It's very popular with tourists and travelers of all kinds. It's a very popular place to learn Spanish. And the reason for that is because the primary language spoken in Xela and that region is actually Quiche, which is sort of an old Mayan language. So a lot of the people who speak Spanish there, it's actually their second language. So they speak it a bit slower and a bit more specifically, which gives you an opportunity as a new learner to really have a good opportunity to grasp the language. The Central Park in the city was amazing. There were so many historical buildings around it. Let's take a look. So welcome to the main square here in Xela. I just walked over from where we were earlier. This is sort of the historical and cultural center point here in Xela. Many of the buildings around this square are very old, have lots of history within them. So this church here is the Metropolitan Cathedral here in Xela, or the Church of the Holy Spirit. All that remains of the original church is this facade on the front here. This was built in 1532. The church suffered two major disasters with two different earthquakes The two earthquakes were in 1853 and 1902. And as a result, yeah, that's all that's left of the original building. But it was built by the Spanish when they first arrived here. And it's sort of one of the most famous buildings here in the city. This here is actually the municipal building here in Xela. So it would house all the sort of, municipal government buildings and offices would be inside of here. Really cool looking building. So this is the House of Culture here in Xela. It's actually, I think, closed at the moment because the front doors are shuttered. But this building houses two museums here in the city, both the Museum of Art and the Museum of Natural History. But what I think is interesting about this building is that if you look at the top and see the clock, does that not remind you of the clock tower from Back to the Future a little bit? It certainly does me. Anyway, I think it looks pretty similar. So it runs here about 3 blocks. Great place to come and people watch if you want to do that. Lots of vendors around selling, fresh food and drinks and those sorts of things. And there's tons of restaurants nearby here on top of all that. So the dual name of the city, Quetzaltenango and Xela. Xela is not a short version of Quetzaltenango at all. It is the name that the Spanish gave the city, and what it translates to is place of the Quetzal bird. Xela is the original Mayan name for the area, and that's why it still goes by that today for most local people, even though on the maps and everything you'll see Quetzaltenango officially. In the number 9 position, I have Momostenango. So Momostenango was a small city up in the highlands in the western part of Guatemala. Truly a breathtaking experience, both getting there and just wandering around the city itself. I think I was the only tourist in the town the entire time I was there. I met so many wonderful people that I spoke to, off camera, who were very excited that there was somebody there visiting their city. Momostenango was also very temperate. It was very pleasantly and cool at the evenings, about 7-8 degrees Celsius at night. It was awesome. There's a wonderful hotel there that I stayed at, and the food and the people and the whole experience of Momostenango makes it number 9. Momostenango is a primarily Quiche Mayan city. About 75% of its population are of Mayan descent. And even when you walk around town here, you hear a lot of Mayan being spoken, which is pretty cool. Momostenango is also, from what I've been reading, one of the last places in Guatemala that still officially observes the Mayan calendar as well as the Gregorian calendar. We are at about 2,200 meters in elevation. I don't know exactly what that converts to in feet or miles, so I'll put that on the screen. But it's not 2 miles, but it's probably 1.5 miles in elevation. So, and there are certainly some other mountains and volcanoes nearby that are much higher again, almost twice as high as where I stand today. So this is just sort of the main square area. You can see there's lots of vendor markets and sellers selling all kinds of stuff. Fruits and vegetables are a big thing here that's grown. As I was coming in to Momo yesterday, all the hillsides were covered in gardens and different plants were being grown, different fruits, vegetables, that sort of thing. And then a lot of that gets brought here to sell to locals or to others. But it's a really cool city. It's a very vibrant city, and it's somewhere that not a lot of people who come to Guatemala, I don't think, tend to visit. Just kind of wandering around with no real plan at the moment, but take a walk down this way and then maybe double back if there's not much going on. Just cutting through the market area here and trying to head back up and around. A bit more action out on the open street. Just stopped at this local place called Momostenango, which is like a coffee shop slash bakery, and the coffee here was delicious. So if you're here in town, make sure you stop here. Coffee was good. They have baked goods here as well. I had a donut, which was delicious. And they've also got a ton of all like locally made regional coffees and stuff, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, really cool spot here. So if you're in the area, make sure you come and check it out because the coffee is great. Completely blown away by this place. It's one of those things where you go somewhere that not a lot of people go to, and then it turns out to be a really great surprise, and that's exactly what happened here. In the number 8 position, I have my first entry from Lake Atitlan, and this was the hike from San Lucas Toliman up to its lookoff point at the Mirador of San Lucas Toliman. It was an extreme hike of some sorts in that I was both prepared and unprepared for the hike that was ahead of me. It started off very gradual, going up a hill, and then by the end, I was grabbing on branches, holding on for dear life, trying to get to the top. But at the top, the view was spectacular. Even on a cloudy, foggy day, you could see for miles in every direction. There were volcanoes, there's the lake, and the city itself. And that was sort of a preparatory hike in some ways for an eventual hike out of a volcano in El Salvador a few weeks later. Let's have a look at the hike from San Lucas Toliman. And ironically enough, to get up to the Mirador, we have to go downhill first. It's very steep, twisty climb up the hill. There's not a lot of mercy getting up this trail to El Mirador, but you can just sort of see a little bit of the town. That's where I would have started from, was down there, and yeah, still a long way to go. Still working my way up, but there you can see an even better view of the town of San Lucas. And so the lake is just over behind this ridge, and then the town kind of backs into this valley a little bit, and then the hills behind it with the clouds and the fog. But yeah, the higher we get up here, definitely the nicer the view. This is a intense walk though, so make sure you have water and good shoes and determination, I guess, would be the biggest thing. So you can see this trail is not really an officially groomed trail or anything. It's more of just kind of a shortcut up the hill to get to the Mirador. But some kind of celebration down at the school, it sounds like. Yeah, this actually gets to when you get to the top here, you actually get to the road that travels all the way around the lake at the peaks. But this is obviously a shorter, if steeper, way to get there. One other thing I kind of appreciate on a personal note is that I think back to like a year ago from now, there would have been no way I would have been able to do this hike. I would have looked at it and went, nope. Went home and had another bag of chips. So, yeah. As tired as I am, this is still way better. So, just briefly talking to that guy, and he said it's only about 10 more minutes from here. Maybe for him. But no, we're doing good. Beautiful up here. Come around this corner here where I did, and then you've got this kind of valley area we're coming up into. Well, we made it to the top. I'm up here at the Mirador overlooking San Lucas Toliman, and the sun has just come out, finally, after all the hike. Just had a lovely conversation with a local family, and they were super nice and asking me lots of questions about my trip and where I've been and where I'm going. And it's always nice to have those chats. But this view is amazing, and it was totally worth it, even on this cloudy, hazy, overcasty kind of day. It's nice to be able to do those kinds of hikes and stuff Whereas, a couple of years ago, I quite honestly would struggle to get up a flight of stairs without getting winded. So I do feel a sense of accomplishment in that regard. In the number 7 spot, I have Rio Dulce. Now, Rio Dulce is kind of 3 stops in one, so I'm cheating a little bit. But as an experience, I was there for a week in total and made 3 different stops along the river and just unbelievably an amazing time there. I had 2 stops both along the river and then one final one in the city of Livingston, which was sort of isolated in that the only way to get to it is either by boat or by plane. And even then, by plane, you still have to take a boat. So it wasn't a super busy place with a lot of tourists, but what it was a very unique part of the country again, and felt very separate from a lot of what you would see later on in Guatemala. So let's have a look at Rio Dulce. Absolute stunner of a day here in Guatemala. Great breeze coming off the water here. I'm just at the Sundog Cafe, which you can see behind me. Just had a great sandwich and a drink there. So as you can probably hear especially, but also see, it's really raining today. It's been raining like this since about 2 a.m. or so, I would say. So what's nice about this place though is that everything is up on these raised platforms. It's just an absolutely beautiful spot here. I mean, we are in the jungle, in the rainforest here for sure. We're along Rio Dulce, but we're probably a few hundred feet back off the water's edge. So you really get a sense of just kind of being right in the middle of it here, which is pretty cool. Well, the rain finally stopped, so that's nice. You got a bunch of tables and stuff in here. There's a bar there, and they cook up in the kitchen just over there. And yeah, it's a great spot. Welcome to stop number 2 here along the Rio Dulce as I slowly make my way to Livingston in Guatemala. And this is Hotel Casa Maya here along the Rio Dulce. So we are about 45 minutes to an hour from the town of Rio Dulce where we started, and about 20 or so minutes to Livingston at the other end. They've built this really nice area here. That's like the dining area. They do all their own meals on site, and they have, drinks and free water and all that sort of stuff inside. Again, you get this real sense that we are very much within the rainforest itself. And there are 4 private bungalows that are here for rent. Yeah, it's just perfect. It's so quiet and family run. And like I said, they've built this entire building basically by hand. These boards were all milled and planed from the wood that they've cut down right there. One of the things I'll say about Livingston is that it's super easy to just chill around and do nothing for days at a time. And yeah, it's been fantastic. So I'm really glad that I got to get out on the Rio Dulce and get to Livingston and check it out. Livingston also became famous for trade in its natural wood that's in the area, which was quite popular, used for shipbuilding and things in the 1800s. But it's a very beautiful town. It's been pretty laid back, wouldn't you say? Voila! And it's been a very easy way to spend the week here in this part of Guatemala and just kind of, you know, float down the river basically. And in the number 6 position, I have the streets of San Juan La Laguna. So San Juan was the second stop that I had around Lake Atitlan. I initially started in San Pedro, which is where a lot of people go when they don't want to go to Panajachel and start from there. They go to San Pedro. So San Pedro is a big backpacker community, lots of hostels, lots of cheap accommodations, lots of, you know, local restaurants and things like that. But for me, San Pedro pales in comparison to San Juan. San Juan had a much more local feel to it. San Juan was a unique city around the lake as far as I know, in that only locals could have real estate and businesses within the town. So everything felt very local, and the streets of San Juan were incredible. They have many streets that were decorated. There's a street of the umbrellas, a street of the hats. You know, everything at nighttime lights up and becomes alive. There was beautiful mural art everywhere you would look. And the streets of San Juan around Lake Atitlan in Guatemala is number 6 and should not be missed by anyone. Let's have a look. So one of the reasons I've come to like San Juan so much during my time here is that it is firstly 95% roughly traditional Sutuhil Maya that are in this town. It has about 15,000 people living in it approximately. And one of the other unique things about it, at least compared to a lot of the other cities around Lake Atitlan, is that the city has a restriction on who can purchase land here and who can run businesses and stuff, so it's all entirely local. There's no foreign ownership in the town of San Juan, and I think that's one of the things that I like about it, is that it feels a bit more authentic, a bit more laid back, and a bit more real to me. So as I mentioned, San Juan is one of the 11 or so towns around the lake. So along here, one of the things that San Juan is actually quite famous for is a lot of art. There's a lot of textiles, a lot of art galleries, painting, that sort of thing here. And you can see that obviously with the street that's painted and the decorations above it. All kinds of great coffee shops here, lots of good restaurants. Right in the middle of town here, one of the nice things too is we've got this open court area. I was here the other day and saw a bunch of kids playing basketball and stuff. Really beautifully decorated with all the paintings. So here's a sample of some of the artwork that surrounds this place. Some of it's really cool, really beautiful artwork. Take a little walk up through here. It's another little side street, walkable side street with lots of art and textiles. I think the paintings here, I would argue, make San Juan worth stopping for all on its own. So there you have it, spots 10 through 6, plus our honorable mention for our stops in Guatemala in 2025. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Leave a like or a comment down below to let me know that you were here. This is your first time coming across my channel. Feel free to subscribe and see future updates and check out some old videos as well. If you'd like to support me further, there are a few different ways you can do that. The first is I have memberships set up here on YouTube. I have 3 different tiers available. The cheapest one starts at just $3 Canadian per month, or about $2 US. If you prefer to support me one time, that's great too. I also have some PayPal and Bitcoin links down below, or here through the QR codes on the screen. You don't have to do that. It's not necessary, but I always appreciate it. I am totally self-funded. I'm doing this all by myself. I don't have a team or anything else. So anything that gets contributed goes directly back to me to help continuing to provide content. And I also have my merchandise store both through here on YouTube and also on my own site at WanderBeard.com. And currently, as of taping, I have some very limited edition Christmas clothing and other merchandise available for sale with a very special design on my logo. I kind of thought it was a lot of fun to kind of play around with it a little bit, so I hope you like it too, and at least check it out. And remember, life is short. Wander. And I'll see you in the next video when I recap my top 5 moments from Guatemala in 2025.